The warning light blinked red on the console. Captain Sung stared at it for a long moment before pressing the button. He had been exploring space for 15 years, but something about this signal felt different. It felt desperate. "What is that?" he asked his communications officer. The young woman adjusted her headset and frowned. Her fingers moved quickly across her keyboard. "It's a distress signal, Captain. Very weak, coming from the edge of charted space." Sung stood up from his chair and walked over to her station. The ship was quiet around them. Most of the crew was sleeping. It was late in the night cycle. "Can you tell who's sending it?" Shook her head. "The language is not in our database, but I can translate parts of it." She pressed a button. Static filled the bridge, then a voice came through. It sounded tired and broken. "Please, anyone, we are dying. Please help us." The message repeated, over and over, the same desperate words. Sung felt something tighten in his chest. He had heard distress calls before, but this one was different. This one sounded like a final prayer. "Where are they?" "Sector 447. Near the system," said. She looked up at him. "Captain, that's in quarantine space. The Galactic Council marked it as forbidden 2 years ago." "Why?" Sung asked. "A plague. They said the whole planet was contaminated. No one is allowed to go there." Sung thought about this. The Galactic Council was powerful. They made the rules for hundreds of species across the galaxy. Humans were new to the Council. They had only joined 5 years ago. Earth's leaders always told human captains to follow Council rules, to not make trouble, to be good guests in the galaxy. But that voice, those words, "We are dying, please." "Wake up, Doctor," Sung said, "and call the senior officers to the bridge. We need to talk." 20 minutes later, the bridge was full. Doctor stood next to the captain's chair. She was the ship's chief medical officer. Behind her stood Lieutenant Sung, the tactical officer, and Engineer Min, who kept the ship running. They all looked tired but alert. Sung played the message for them. They listened in silence. "That's in quarantine space," Lieutenant Sung said immediately. "We can't go there. Earth Command will have our heads." "People are dying," Doctor said quietly. "That's what the message says." "The Council quarantined that planet for a reason," Engineer Min added. "What if the plague spreads? What if we bring it back to Earth?" These were good points. Sung knew this, but he could not stop thinking about the voice, about the word please, about how it sounded like someone who had given up hope a long time ago. He said, "Have you found any other information about this planet, about these people?" Nodded. She brought up a screen that showed data. "They're called the herbivores, peaceful traders. They had a population of 5 billion before the plague. The Council estimated that only a few million are left now." 5 billion to a few million, Doctor whispered, "in just 2 years." "The Council said the plague was too dangerous," continued. "Every major power refused to help. The Empire, the Syndicate Collective, everyone. They all said the same thing. Quarantine protocols must be followed." Sung walked to the front viewport. Stars stretched out before him, endless and cold. Humanity had dreamed of reaching the stars for centuries. They had imagined meeting new friends, learning new things, building a better future. But the galaxy they found was not what they expected. It was full of rules and politics and fear. "Captain," Lieutenant Sung said carefully, "I understand what you're feeling, but we have orders. Non-interference protocols are clear. We're not supposed to get involved in Council matters." "This isn't a Council matter," Sung said. "This is people dying while everyone watches." "Sir, if we go there, Earth could face consequences. The Council might sanction us. They might cut trade, they might." "I know," Sung interrupted. He turned around to face his crew. "I know what could happen, but let me ask you something. Why did we come to space? Why did humanity build ships and travel to the stars?" No one answered. "We came here to be better," Sung said. "We came here to help, to learn, to make friends. not to watch people die because it's inconvenient to save them. Doctor stepped forward. Captain, let me at least analyze the signal. Maybe I can learn something about this plague. If it's truly dangerous to other species, then we would be risking the whole ship. But if it's not, she let the words hang in the air. Sung nodded, do it fast. For the next 2 hours, Doctor worked. She analyzed every bit of data from the distress signal. She looked at old council reports. She studied what little medical information existed about the. Finally, she came back to the bridge. Her face was angry. It's a lie, she said. The quarantine is a lie. Everyone stared at her. The plague, Doctor explained, is specific to biology. It only affects them. It cannot spread to other species. The council would have known this. Any basic medical scan would show it. Then why did they quarantine the planet? Asked. I don't know, Doctor said, but it wasn't to protect anyone from disease. The bridge went silent. Sung felt anger rise in his chest. He thought about 5 billion people dying. He thought about the galaxy watching and doing nothing. He thought about the lie. Set course for, he said quietly. Captain, Lieutenant Sung started. That's an order, Sung said louder now. Set the course, maximum speed, and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what we found. Tell them what we're doing. Tell them. He paused. Tell them we didn't come to space to be cowards. Smiled, it was small but real. Yes, Captain. The ship turned. Stars shifted in the viewport. Somewhere ahead in the darkness, people were dying. People who had been abandoned. People who had given up hope. But Captain Sung and his crew were coming, and they would not turn away. The message kept playing in the background, quiet and desperate. We are dying, please, anyone. We're coming, Sung whispered to the stars. Hold on, we're coming. The Dauntless arrived at 3 days later. What they found made everyone on the bridge go silent. The planet was beautiful. Blue oceans covered most of its surface. Green continents spread between them. White clouds drifted peacefully above. It looked like Earth. It looked like home. But the orbital space was dead. Dozens of satellites floated uselessly. Defense stations hung dark and powerless, and everywhere there were ships, hundreds of small ships, all empty, all abandoned. Life signs? Sung asked. Checked her console. I'm reading. Very few, Captain. Maybe 3 million on the entire planet. Scattered. Most are in the big cities, but those cities look damaged. Doctor was already working. I'm scanning for the plague. I need to know what we're dealing with. Her fingers moved fast. Minutes passed. Then she looked up and her face was sad. It's bad. The disease is everywhere. But Captain, I can synthesize a cure. With our medical technology, I can do it. It will take time, but I can save them. Sung felt hope rise in his chest. How long? A few weeks. Maybe less if I get help from Earth's medical teams. Then we need to tell Earth, Sung said. We need support, medical supplies, scientists, engineers to help rebuild. He turned to open a channel to Earth Command. The communication took 20 minutes to reach Earth, then another 20 for the response to come back. When it did, it was not what Sung hoped for. The face on the screen was Counselor. He was one of Earth's representatives to the Galactic Council. He looked tired and angry. Captain Sung, what do you think you're doing? We're saving lives, Counselor, Sung said calmly. They need help. The quarantine is a lie. The plague is not dangerous to us. Doctor can create a cure. I know what the plague is, Counselor said, but you don't understand the politics here. The Galactic Council has made their decision. If we interfere, there will be consequences. Consequences? Sung felt anger rising. 5 billion people died, Counselor. 5 billion, and we're worried about politics. Yes, Counselor said sharply. Because if the Council decides to sanction Earth, millions of humans will suffer. No trade, no technology sharing, no protection. We will be alone in the galaxy. Is that what you want? Before Sung could answer, another face appeared on the screen. Ambassador, he was calm and measured. Captain, I understand your feelings, but Counselor is right. The Galactic Council has already contacted us. They're watching your ship. They say if you help the humanity will stand alone. Every alliance we've built will end. Why? Doctor asked from behind Sung. Why do they care so much about one dying species? Ambassador hesitated. Then he said quietly, because is rich in resources, minerals that are rare in the galaxy, the Council. He stopped. He looked uncomfortable. The Council finds it easier to mine those resources if they are not here. The bridge went silent. Everyone understood now. This was not about plague. This was not about safety. This was about greed. They were being left to die because their planet was valuable. That's evil, said quietly. That's politics, Counselor replied. And if we want to survive in this galaxy, we need to play by their rules. No, a new voice said. Everyone looked at the screen. A third face appeared. President 1. He was the leader of Earth, an old man with white hair and kind eyes, but right now those eyes were hard. No, Counselor, that is not who we are. Mr. President, Counselor said urgently, please think about this. The consequences. I have thought about it, President 1 interrupted. I've thought about it since Captain Sung sent his report. I've talked to my advisors. I've talked to the military leaders. And I've made my decision. He looked directly at Sung through the screen. Captain, you will have all the support you need. Medical teams, engineers, supplies, whatever it takes to save the... Sir, with respect, Ambassador started. Ambassador, President 1 said, tell the Galactic Council this. Tell them that humanity did not reach the stars to turn our backs on those who need us. Tell them we will not let people die because it's convenient. Tell them that if standing up for what's right means standing alone, then we will stand alone with pride. Counselor looked shocked. This will destroy everything we've built. No, President 1 said softly. This will show the galaxy who we really are. And if our so-called allies abandon us for saving lives, then they were never true allies to begin with. The communication ended. The bridge was silent for a moment, then started clapping. Lieutenant Sung joined her. Soon everyone was clapping. Sung felt tears in his eyes, but he smiled. All right, he said, we have work to do. The relief fleet arrived 6 days later. Admiral commanded it. He was a serious man who rarely smiled. But when his ships entered orbit around, he sent Sung a message. Let's show them what humanity is made of. The fleet was impressive. 5 hospital ships full of doctors and medicine, 10 transport ships carrying engineers and equipment, 3 warships for protection just in case, and hundreds of volunteers, scientists, teachers, people who just wanted to help. Doctor led the medical teams to the surface. They landed in the biggest city. It was called Prime. The city was damaged. Buildings were broken, streets were empty, but there were survivors. Thousands of them, weak and sick but alive. They looked like nothing humans had seen before. They stood on 4 legs. Their bodies were covered in soft fur that changed colors. They had large eyes and gentle faces. They moved slowly, like every step hurt. When the first saw the human doctors coming, he fell to his knees. He started crying. Why? He asked in broken English. Why help us? No one helps us. Everyone leaves. Doctor knelt beside him. She took out a medical scanner. Because you need help, she said simply, and because it's the right thing to do. The elder was called. He met Admiral and Sung at the remains of the Capitol building. He was old. His fur was white. His eyes were tired. I don't understand, he said. The council told us no one would come. They told us we deserved this, that we were unclean. The council lied, Sung said. You're not unclean, you're not forgot, and you're not alone anymore. Looked at the human ships in the sky. He looked at the doctors helping his people. He looked at the engineers already working to fix the power stations. Then he did something unexpected. He laughed. It was a broken sound, but it was real. Humanity, he said. We never heard of you before. You're new to the galaxy, and yet you came. Why?" Admiral answered, "Because someone had to, and we decided it would be us." Over the next weeks, the transformation was amazing. Doctor and her team created the cure. They worked day and night. When it was ready, they produced millions of doses. They gave it to every sick they could find. The plague started to retreat. Engineer Min and his crews fixed the power stations. They repaired the water systems. They rebuilt hospitals and schools. They taught the how to maintain everything. And slowly, the planet came back to life. But in the Galactic Council chambers, far away, there was anger. The other species watched the humans help They watched and they were not happy. A message came for Admiral. It was from a general. The message was simple and cold. "Leave immediately, or face the consequences." Showed the message to Sung. "They're coming," he said. "Let them come," Sung replied. "We're not leaving." The fleet appeared 2 weeks later. 3 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a planet. On the bridge of the Dauntless, alarms rang. Lieutenant Sung called out readings. "3 dreadnoughts, Captain. They're moving toward us, weapons charging." Sung stood calm. Around him, his crew worked quickly. They had been expecting this. "Open a channel. Let's hear what they have to say." The face that appeared on screen was not friendly. The general had gray skin and sharp features. His eyes were cold. "Human vessel Dauntless, you are in violation of Galactic Council quarantine protocols. You have 1 hour to leave this system. If you refuse, we will remove you by force." "This is Captain Sung," he replied calmly. "The quarantine was based on false information. The pose no threat. We're here on a humanitarian mission." "We don't care about your mission," the general said. "The Council has made its decision. This planet is quarantined. Leave now or be destroyed." "The Council is wrong," Sung said, "and we're not leaving." The general's face twisted with anger. "You stupid humans. You've been in the galaxy for 5 years, 5 years, and you think you can challenge powers that have existed for thousands of years. You think you can make your own rules." He leaned closer to the screen. "Let me tell you something. Your species is weak. You have no real allies, no powerful weapons, you're nothing. And now you've signed your death warrant for these worthless creatures." The screen went black. Down on the planet's surface in the medical center, Doctor heard about the fleet. She was treating a young child when the news came. The child's mother, a woman named, Grab's hand. "You must leave," said desperately. "Please, we're grateful for everything, but we can't let you die for us." "We're not leaving," Doctor said gently. She finished treating the child and stood up. Around her, other human doctors continued their work. None of them looked worried. "We knew this might happen." "But why?" asked. Tears rolled down her furry face. "Why die for us? We're strangers to you." Doctor smiled. "Not anymore. Now you're our friends, and humans don't abandon their friends." In the Capitol building, met with Admiral. The old elder was shaking. "Admiral, please take your people and go. They are ruthless. They will kill everyone. There's no shame in leaving." Admiral looked at the old alien. Around them, human engineers worked with workers. Together, they were rebuilding the planetary defense systems. These systems were old and weak. They would not stop the fleet, but they would try. Elder said, "Do you know why our species is called humanity?" Shook his head. "Because we try to be humane, we try to be kind, we try to do what's right even when it's hard." Put a hand on the elder's shoulder. "You asked us for help, we came. We won't leave just because someone threatens us. That's not who we are." "But you'll die," whispered. "Maybe," said, "or maybe we'll win. Either way, we're not leaving." On the Dauntless, Sung called his senior officers together. "We'll attack in 45 minutes, he said. "We have 3 warships against their 3 dreadnoughts. We're out-experienced." He looked at each of them. "Anyone who wants to leave can take a shuttle to the planet. No one will think less of you." No one moved. Lieutenant Sung spoke first. My family came to space to explore, to see new things. If I run now, I dishonor everything they believed in. Engineer Min nodded. I built systems on 6 worlds, good systems that help people. I'm not going to stop now because some bully threatens me. Was last. The young communications officer looked nervous but determined. My grandmother always said that the true test of character is what you do when no one is watching. Well, the whole galaxy is watching now. Let's show them what human character looks like. Sung felt pride swell in his chest. All right then, let's get to work. We can't beat them in a straight fight, so we don't fight straight. For the next 40 minutes they planned. Human ships were smaller and faster than dreadnoughts. They could maneuver better. They could surprise the enemy. It wasn't much, but it was something. On the planet that watched the sky, millions of them. They had been saved by these strange humans. Now those same humans were about to die protecting them. It didn't seem fair. Held her child and looked up. She saw the human ships in orbit, small and fragile against the massive warships that were approaching. Remember this, she told her child. Remember the humans, remember what they did for us. All across were saying the same things. They were recording messages, writing histories. They wanted to make sure that if humanity fell today, the galaxy would know what happened, would know that humans had been good, had been brave, had been everything the galaxy should have been but wasn't. Stood in the rebuilt communications center. He had an idea. He turned to the human technician next to him. Can you send a message to the whole galaxy? The technician nodded. Yes, Elder, but the council will just block it. Try anyway, said. The message went out on all frequencies, spoke clearly. People of the galaxy, this is of the, for 2 years we have been dying, we called for help, we begged, we cried, and no one came, no one except humanity. They are new to the stars, they are small. They are weak by your standards, but they have something you have lost. They have compassion, they have courage. And now, because they helped us, they are about to be destroyed by the Empire. He paused, his voice grew stronger. So I ask you, is this the galaxy you want? Where the good are punished and the cruel rewarded, where helping others means death. If humanity falls today, what does that say about all of us? The message ended, didn't know if anyone would listen, but he had to try. In orbit, the timer reached 0. The fleet opened fire. Space lit up with weapons fire. Massive energy beams crossed the distance between the fleets. The first shots hit the human warship Guardian. Its shields flared bright blue, then failed. The ship took direct hits. Explosions rippled across its hull. But the Guardian didn't run. It kept firing back. Its smaller weapons peppered the lead dreadnought. All ships attack pattern Delta, Admiral ordered. His voice was calm despite the chaos. The human ships moved fast. They split up, each going in different directions. They tried to track them, but their huge ships were slow to turn. Human fighters launched. Dozens of small ships swarmed around the dreadnoughts like angry bees. Lieutenant Sung led a fighter squadron. Focus on their sensor arrays, he ordered. Make them blind. The fighters dove and weaved. Point Defense tried to stop them, but there were too many targets. Human pilots had trained for this. They had practiced against larger enemies. They knew how to survive. Sung's fighter dodged left as a beam weapon passed where he had been. He fired missiles at the sensor cluster on the nearest dreadnought. They hit. The cluster exploded. That's one down, he reported. On the Dauntless, Sung watched the battle. They were losing. The Guardian was heavily damaged. Another human warship, the Defiant, was venting atmosphere, but they were doing damage too. The dreadnoughts had expected an easy fight. They were not getting one. Captain called out, I'm picking up something. Other ships are entering the system. More? Sung asked, his heart sinking. No, said slowly. She looked shocked. There. I don't know what they are. Dozens of ships, different species. They're positioning themselves around us. On the main screen, new vessels appeared. They were not human. They were not. They were ships from other races, species that had been ignored by the Council, species that had been overlooked, and they were putting themselves between the humans and the fleet. A message came through, multiple voices, different languages, but all saying the same thing. Humanity help the helpless. We will not let them stand alone. The general stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Where moments ago there had been only weak human ships, now there were dozens of vessels. Small ships, old ships, but ships nonetheless. And they were protecting the humans. "Sir, we're being hailed," his communications officer said. "Multiple species. They're demanding we stand down." "Stand down." The general's voice was full of rage. "We don't take orders from rabble, destroy them all." But as the dreadnoughts turned their weapons toward the new arrivals, something happened. More ships appeared. Then more, species from across the galaxy. Not the powerful ones, not the council members, but the forgotten ones. The ignored ones, the small ones. On the Dauntless was crying as she read the messages coming in. "Captain, there are over 100 ships now. They're all saying the same thing. They heard Elder's message. They heard what humanity did, and they're here to help." Sung felt something break inside him. Not sadness, hope, pure, overwhelming hope. "Tell them thank you," he said quietly. "Tell them we're honored." A new voice came over the communications. It was rough and strange. "Human Captain, this is Captain Vex of the Trade Fleet. We are not warriors, our ships are old, but we saw what you did we couldn't let you fight alone." There was a pause. "Someone had to stand with you. We decided it would be us." Sung smiled. Those were the same words Admiral had said to Elder, the same words that were now spreading across the galaxy. But the general was not impressed. "Fools," he muttered. "All of you are fools." He opened a channel to all ships. "This is your last warning. Leave now or share the humans' fate." "No," came the reply, not from one voice but from many, different species, different languages, but one word: "No." The general's face turned dark with anger. "Fire on all targets, kill them all." The dreadnoughts unleashed everything they had. Energy beams cut through space. Missiles launched. The darkness lit up with destruction. 3 of the smaller alien ships exploded immediately. Others took hits, their shields failing, their hulls breaching. But they didn't run, they stayed, and they fired back. Lieutenant Sung saw a trade ship take a direct hit. It started spinning, atmosphere venting. But as it spun, it fired its small cargo lasers at the ship that hit it. The lasers barely scratched the dreadnought's armor, but they fired anyway. "That's courage," Sung whispered. He adjusted his fighter's course. "All squadrons cover the civilian ships. Don't let them get clean shots." The human fighters moved to protect their new allies. They flew between the big ships and the small civilian vessels. They took hits meant for others, and they kept fighting. On the planet, Doctor and the other medical teams watched the battle in the sky. They could see the explosions, the lights, the death. "We should help," said. "We need to get up there. We need to treat the wounded." "You can't," said Holding's arm. "The battle is too dangerous." "Those people came here because of us," said. "They're dying because they heard we helped you. We can't just watch." She turned to her medical teams. "Load up the shuttles. Anyone hurt up there needs us. Let's move." Within minutes, human medical shuttles were launching toward the battle. They dodged weapons fire. They flew through debris. And they reached damaged ships, pulling wounded crew members to safety. In the communications center, watched everything. He saw the humans fighting. He saw the other species helping. He saw the galaxy he thought was dead showing signs of life. "We have to do something," he said to the around him. "We can't just hide here while they die for us." "Our ships are barely functional," one of the engineers said. "We have no weapons, no shields, nothing." "Then we use what we have," said. He stood tall, his old body straightening with purpose. "We have ships that can fly. We have courage. That has to be enough." 10 minutes later, ships began launching from the planet. They were transport ships, mining ships, cargo haulers, nothing built for war, but they flew anyway. They joined the battle using their ships as shields for the others. They rammed into fighters. They positioned themselves in front of human vessels. The general watched his tactical display with growing frustration. This was supposed to be easy, a quick show of force, destroy the humans, remind the galaxy of power, but it was turning into a disaster. "Status report," he barked. "Sir, we've destroyed 15 enemy vessels, but our point defense is overwhelmed. Our shields are at 60%, and—" the officer hesitated. "Sir, they are reporting weapons malfunctions on Dreadnought 3. They're saying someone sabotaged their systems." "Impossible," the general said, but even as he said it, he knew it wasn't impossible. His own weapons officers had questioned this mission. Many didn't like firing on civilian ships, didn't like killing people who were just helping others. On the Dauntless, Sung saw his opening. The fleet was in disarray, ships were everywhere, the formations were broken. "Now," he said, "execute Plan Omega." Admiral received the order. He had been waiting for this moment. The human warships, damaged but still functional, made a sudden coordinated move. They dove toward the planet, using its gravity to slingshot around. They picked up speed, massive speed, and they came up behind the fleet where their defenses were weakest. "All ships target the lead dreadnought," ordered. "Everything we have. One ship, concentrated fire." The human warships, the alien civilian vessels, even the haulers, all turned their weapons on the lead ship. It was where the general was, where the command came from. Hundreds of weapons, big and small, all fired at once. The lead dreadnought's rear shields, not designed for such concentrated fire, failed. Energy beams pierced the hull. Missiles found their marks. Explosions rippled through the great ship. Its engines went dark. It began to drift. "The flagship is disabled," reported. Her voice was shaking with excitement. But they weren't done. Sung had one more card to play. During the confusion, Engineer Min had been working on something. He had found the weapon frequencies. He had hacked into their communications. And now he broadcast a message directly to the other two dreadnoughts. It was a video, footage of the plague, of the dying, of humans helping, of the being saved. "This is what your general didn't want you to see," Min's voice said over the footage. "The quarantine was a lie. These people were left to die so the council could take their resources. And when humanity tried to help, your leaders ordered you to kill them. Ask yourselves, is this who you want to be?" There was silence. Then one of the dreadnoughts stopped firing. Its weapons powered down. A message came through. "This is Captain of the Dreadnought Vengeance. We withdraw from this battle. We will not fire on civilians and healers." The third dreadnought hesitated. Then it too powered down its weapons. "Dreadnought Honor withdrawing as well," came the message. In orbit above, the battle ended. Not with more death, but with choice. The crews had chosen not to fight, had chosen not to be part of something wrong. The general, trapped on his disabled ship, screamed orders, but no one was listening anymore. Sung sat in his captain's chair. Around him, his crew was cheering. Ships all around were celebrating. They had won, not through superior weapons, not through greater numbers, but through simple, stubborn righteousness, through refusing to give up, through showing others what was possible. Sung said quietly, "Send a message to all ships. Tell them they have our eternal gratitude. Tell them what they did here today will be remembered." But was looking at another screen. Her eyes were wide. "Captain, you need to see this." On the screen was a map of the galaxy, and on that map something was happening. Systems were lighting up. One by one, species were broadcasting messages. They were all saying the same thing. They were leaving the Galactic Council. They were rejecting the old ways, and they wanted to join something new. Something built on what happened here today. 3 months after the battle looked like a different world. The cities were rebuilt. Power flowed through every building. Clean water ran in the pipes. Children played in the streets. And everywhere humans and worked side by side. Doctor stood in the new medical academy. It was the first building jointly designed by humans, and the architecture mixed both styles, human efficiency with beauty. She was teaching a class. Half the students were human, half were. "The plague taught us something," she said to her class. "It taught us that working together, sharing knowledge, we can solve anything." A young student raised his hand. "Doctor, is it true you could have left, that you could have been safe?" Smiled, "Yes, but being safe isn't the same as being right, and I wanted to be right more than I wanted to be safe." Across the city, Engineer Min was helping build the new spaceport. It was bigger than the old one, strong enough to handle the traffic was now seeing, because ships came every day, not to take resources, to trade, to share, to be part of something new. "You're building it too big," an engineer joked as they worked together on the main support beam. "No such thing as too big," Min replied. "More species join us every week. We need room for everyone." In the rebuilt Capitol building, something historic was happening. President One had come from Earth. He stood beside Elder. Around them were representatives from 43 different species. Some were powerful, most were not, but all of them had one thing in common. They were tired of the old way. "We call this the Accord," President One said, his voice carrying through the chamber. The room was full. Beings of all shapes and sizes watched. "It's simple. We agree to protect each other, to trade fairly, to share knowledge, to help those in need, not because it's profitable, not because it's easy, but because it's right." Stepped forward, the old had grown stronger over the months. He looked healthy, happy. "My people were left to die," he said. "The galaxy watched and did nothing. Then humanity came. They risked everything. They sacrificed. They showed us that kindness still exists in the universe. Today we honor that. Today we promise to be like them." One by one, the representatives came forward. They signed the accord. Each signature meant something. It meant choosing a different path. It meant rejecting the old powers and building something new. When it was done, President won and shook hands. The room erupted in applause, not the polite applause of diplomacy. Real applause, joyful, hopeful. Outside in the plaza, thousands gathered to watch on screens. Humans, dozens of other species. They celebrated together. Children of different races played. Adults shared food from their different worlds. It looked like the galaxy humanity had dreamed of, the one they thought they would find when they reached the stars. Captain Sung watched from a balcony. He was in his dress uniform. Medals hung on his chest. Medals he didn't feel he deserved. "We just did what was right," he had said when they gave him the awards. Joined him on the balcony. She had been promoted. She was a commander now. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she said, looking at the crowd below. "It is," Sung agreed. "But it's also fragile. The council hasn't given up. They're out there, angry and waiting." "Let them wait," said. "We have 43 systems now. More joining every day. We have each other. That's more than they have." She was right. The Galactic Council was fracturing. Species were leaving. Some, like were having civil debates about their place in the galaxy. Captain, who had refused to fire during the battle, was now a hero to his people. He was pushing for reform. The old order was dying. Something new was being born. On Earth, Ambassador gave a speech to the United Nations. "3 months ago, we made a choice. We chose to help people the galaxy had forgot. We were told it would destroy us, that we would stand alone, that we would be punished." He paused, smiling. "Instead, we found that we were not alone. We found friends. We found allies. We found that there are good people everywhere just waiting for someone to stand up first." The speech was broadcast across the Free Worlds Coalition. That's what they called themselves now. Not a council, not an empire. A coalition of free worlds choosing to work together. Lieutenant Sung was back on the Dauntless. The ship had been repaired, better than before actually. Engineers had shared some of their technology. Traders had provided better materials. The ship was a symbol now, of cooperation, of what they could build together. He was in the pilot's seat when the new message came in. It was marked urgent. He brought it to Captain Sung immediately. Sung read the message. His expression didn't change, but Sung knew him well enough to see the determination in his eyes. "Another distress signal," Sung said quietly. "A species called they're asking for help. The Council has quarantined their system, says they're too primitive to save." "That's the third distress call this month," Sung said. "The Council is doing this on purpose, testing us, seeing if we'll spread ourselves too thin." "Probably," Sung agreed. He stood up. "Set course for the system, maximum speed." "Sir," Sung said carefully, "we can't save everyone. We're just one ship." "We're not one ship," Sung said. He pointed at the communications board. "Send a message to the Coalition. Tell them what we found, see who can help." 20 minutes later, the responses came flooding in. 12 ships volunteered, medical vessels, transports full of supplies, even a ship, the Redemption, captained by himself. "We would be honored to help," his message said. "We have much to make up for." The Dauntless didn't travel alone to the system. It traveled with a fleet of hope. On in the new Coalition headquarters, a young worked late. Her name was daughter Myra. She had been just a child when the humans saved her. Now she was a historian. She was writing the story of what happened, of the plague, of humanity's choice, of the battle, of everything that came after. Her mother came to check on her. "You should sleep," said gently. "I will," Myra replied. "I just want to finish this chapter. It's important." "What chapter?" Myra gestured at her screen. "The chapter about why it worked, about why humanity's choice changed everything." "And what's your answer?" asked Curious. Myra thought for a moment. Then she said, "Because they showed us we had a choice. The Council made us think we had to accept things the way they were. That power meant everything, that the weak would always suffer. But humanity showed us that wasn't true. They showed us that kindness is a choice, that courage is a choice, that standing up is a choice. And once we saw that, once we remembered that, everything changed." Smiled, she hugged her daughter. "That's beautiful and true." Far away in the old council chambers, the remaining members met. They were fewer now, weaker, angry. "This cannot stand," one of them said. "Humanity has upset the order of things. They've given hope to species that should have none. They've made the weak think they can stand against us." "Then what do we do?" another asked. There was silence, because they didn't know. For the first time in thousands of years, they didn't know. The old tricks didn't work. The old threats had no power, because humanity and their allies had something the Council didn't understand. They had each other. They had belief in something bigger than themselves. Back on the Dauntless, sat at her communication station. She was monitoring the distress call from but she was also monitoring something else. The chatter across the galaxy. Conversations between ordinary people on different worlds. They were all talking about the same thing, about humanity, about the choice to help. The stories were spreading, growing, changing. She pulled up a translation of one message. It was from a young being on a small world. The message said, "Today I saw a human ship pass by our station. My parent told me about what they did about how they refused to leave, about how they stood up when no one else would. I want to be like that. I want to be brave like they were." Smiled, that was it. That was why what they did mattered. Not because they won a battle, not because they formed an alliance, but because they showed others what was possible. They showed that one choice, one moment of courage could change everything. The Dauntless and its fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. They were heading toward the system, toward people who needed help, just like they had needed help 3 months ago. In the captain's chair, Sung looked at the stars rushing past. He thought about how far they had come, how much had changed. But he also knew this was just the beginning. There would be more distress calls, more people who needed help, more chances to choose between convenience and compassion. And every time, he knew what humanity would choose. Because that's who they were, that's what they had shown the galaxy. The galaxy had become a colder place over the centuries, full of rules and power and fear. But wherever humans went, warmth followed, kindness followed, hope followed. Turn to him. Captain, the coalition fleet is asking for orders. What should I tell them? Sung didn't hesitate. Tell them we're not coming as conquerors. We're not coming to take or to rule. We're coming to help, because someone has to stand up, and we decided it would be us. The message went out, and across the coalition, from Earth to every system that had joined them, people heard it, and they smiled, because they knew it was true. They didn't know it yet, but help was coming. Real help. Not the cold calculations of the Council, but warm human compassion. And behind humanity, an entire coalition of species who had learned that kindness was strength, that standing together was better than standing apart. The old galaxy was dying. A new one was being born, and it all started with one choice. One human captain deciding that people were worth saving, that doing right was more important than being safe. The stars stretched ahead, full of possibilities, and humanity, with all their new friends, rushed toward them with open hearts and helping hands.